Hello beginner snowboarders of the internet. I'm your host Avran LeFeber, and in this video we're going to show you how to mount your bindings on a 4-hole patterned snowboard. Basically the snowboard that everyone has that's not Burton, Signal, or Endeavor because they use the Channel. If you do need to mount a Channel snowboard, we've got a video for that and I'll have a link for it down below. For this video you're going to need 4 things. Tape measure, number 3 screwdriver, not a number 2, that'll just strip your bolts, 4-hole disc, and your screws. You should have 4 per binding, or if it's a mini disc, 2 per binding, although I'd strongly recommend for all of you 4 per binding. One of the first things you want to do is figure out if you're goofy footed, which is right foot forward, or regular footed, which is left foot forward. If you're goofy footed, you are superior footed. So once you know which one is going to be your dominant foot, you need to figure out your stance width. The general rule of thumb is to be just a little bit wider than your shoulders. Now some people go a little bit narrower, some people go ultra wide. There's really nothing wrong with it. A lot of it is personal preference. If you're questioning what your stance width is, always go with the reference point, which is usually marked on the snowboard. This one, it is not, but for most other brands out there, it's generally the center of the insert packs. My stance is 21.5 inches, which usually means one set of inserts in with the discs kicked out a little bit. So what I typically do is I take the tape measure and I measure from one of the center inserts right here and here, which would put me one set in right at 21. To get that 21.5, all I'm going to do is slide the disc a little bit more out each way towards the tip and the tail. That's going to give me the 21.5 inches I need. Now let's say you bought a snowboard and it's already set up for you. How do you measure the stance width? The way to measure it is from the dead center of the back binding to the dead center of the front binding. You want to measure from the center of the disc to the center of the disc. Now that you know how to find the width, you've got to figure out your angles. Now I ride 18 negative 15, so that's 18 degrees on the front, negative 15 on the rear. And there are markers on this disc that indicate 3 degrees per, with big ones being 0 and 15, all the way up to 30. Some even go to 45, but that's a little bit aggressive. We don't need to get into that. The big thing to remember is angles are a big personal preference, and you will have to play around with it a little bit to get what you like. But generally, start with 15 on the front, negative 9 to negative 12 on the rear foot. Let's talk about some stances that are not cool. Pigeon-toed. You do not want your toes facing inward towards each other. You will blow your knees out. Having more angle on the back foot than the front foot. That is a no-no. Same thing with having more outer angle on the back foot than the front foot. Basically, someone probably set your board up backwards if that's the case. And if you're that person, I will not ride the chairlift with you. I will let you get on by yourself because you will fall. So now you're ready to mount the binding. So what you want to do is take it, put it over the holes of the board, release the toe strap, pull up the heel strap, pull up the cover plate, put it in front of the toe strap and ratchet it down. It's just a little trick to keep it out of your way so you can see what angles you're working with. Now what I am is 18 on the front, so I want to make sure that I line up the disc to the 18 degree so that it's going to be angled. And I know that I'm one set of inserts forward with the disc kicked out. So I want to line it up so that the furthest hole on the inside is over that hole of the insert that's one pack in. And then from there, you're going to line it up, make sure that it matches up all the holes you want, and you're going to get your screws. Now you're going to take your screws and you're going to hand thread them through the hole into the insert, or at least line them up. You get all 4 of them, you're going to take your number 3 screwdriver. You do not want a number 2 or a number 1. You will strip the screws. And you're going to tighten down one of the inside screws. It should be about 3 to 5 turns of the screwdriver. I generally go a little bit less right away. And after you get that first screw done, you're going to go to the one across from it and down. So basically think of it like you're doing an X. So you're going to go down to the other one on the outside bottom, and you're going to tighten that one. Then you're going to go to the outside upper and tighten that one down. Then you're going to go to the inside lower and tighten that down. Basically, you're tightening it down in an X pattern. From there, you might want to just do another half turn on every screw just to make sure that they're locked in. Once you've got all that, they're all set. The back binding, it's the same set of rules. You can over tighten these, so make sure you're not really cranking down on it, otherwise you will dimple the base, which is where the insert pushes down through the base. It's not fun, it's not pleasant, it doesn't really affect the ride too much, but you can over tighten it. So just don't be that guy. Now, one thing I want to tell you is, after a couple days of snowboarding, check your screws, tighten them back up. They loosen on you. That's just a fact of life. One thing that I do want to make clear is centering your boot on the binding. Now this disc is slightly offset. If you notice, there's a little bit more here at the top than there is here at the bottom. The reason for that is you can center the binding better that way. You want to make sure that you have equal amounts of toe and heel overhang. And one way to check that is to just tilt the board on its side and roll it up, top to bottom, once you have everything mounted with your boot in there. That way you can see if you're going to boot out on the toe or the heel and if you're centered. Alright, so hopefully this answers the questions on how to set up a binding on the board. If it does, awesome. If it doesn't, you're probably hopeless and I really don't care. If you're new here, remember to subscribe, click that bell, get those notifications. That way you're not missing any of the videos that we have coming out, and we've got a lot of content for you guys. And if you really like what we're doing, check out Angry Snowboarder VIP. We have an awesome community over there that supports us and helps us create the content for all you snowboarders of the internet. As always, I've been your host, Avran LeFeber, and I'll see you in another video.